What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news for you concerning Manny Pacquiao. His trainer, award-winning trainer Freddie Roach, has stated that he would like to see Manny in the ring with Keith Thurman. Now, normally, Roach, he talks a lot. He mentions a lot of fighters. He throws a lot of fighters' names out there, like Khan and Mayweather too, and other guys, that he would like to see his boy in there with. Now, this wouldn't really be no big really deal, but in boxing circles, around now, this is just now a rumor, but there, the talks have came up, and it's not like Bob Arum hasn't done business with Al Heyman before, so the talks are good. It's healthy. It's healthy for a guy like Manny Pacquiao that fights on the elite level. I would like to see that fight because I don't think Danny Garcia, and he just didn't blow Danny Garcia out the water. I never said he would, but Danny Garcia didn't have the speed to deal with him, and he didn't have the aggressive. He didn't have that tenacity, right, to deal with Keith Thurman. He tried to match Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman's the kind of guy, he's going to bring it to you, but I don't think Keith Thurman has ever been in there with someone just as fast as him. That's always been his strong point. He has heavy hands, he's a good puncher, but he's awkward, but he's fast. He punches with mean intentions, but Manny Pacquiao is someone that he's never been in there with. And speaking of Manny, him going in there and fighting guys like Jeff Horn is just, I've said it again and again, it's a waste of time. He's not doing himself justice. In fact, he's wasting those precious moments and the time of training to fight someone that he knows he's a lot better than. Guys, look at it. How many times have you seen a fight that a guy has 10% chance of winning versus the other guy having 90% chance of winning? That's what you look at, and that's what's happening in the sport of boxing. That Jeff Horn Manny Pacquiao fight, it looks like it's going to happen. And in a lot of Pacquiao, I'm a Pac-Man fan, but I'm not one of his fanatical, fucked up Pac-tards. You know what I'm saying? I understand things from different perspectives, and he's getting older. You can't deny that. And he's still fighting at the elite level, so he needs to fight guys on that level while he still can. I don't see how people don't understand that. They sit here and they'll argue they'll get on this channel and they're like, oh well, what's the tune-up fight? He needs a tune-up fight. No, he doesn't need a tune-up fight. Nobody needs a tune-up fight. The only time you need a tune-up fight is when you've been knocked out. That's why I can understand the Brandon Rios fight. Or badly beaten or injured because you don't know how the extent of your injuries, of how well you will perform, coming off that injury. So you don't want to be in there with a top-notch guy. I get it. But he hasn't had any injuries. He hasn't been knocked out in the last, almost 5 years. That's a long time. 2012, it's over 4 years. So if it makes December 5th or 8th of this year, it'd been 5 years. So that hasn't happened. So he needs to get in there and fight the elite guys while he still can. Time is precious. It's precious on so many levels, especially boxers. And I gotta say, if Manny Pacquiao goes in there and that fight happens, if it happens this year, okay, because it's all about time. If it happens this year, that would be a great fight to have. Keith Thurman will have a chance to prove that he's one of the dominant forces in the sport, which he already has, but he can seal the deal by beating Pacquiao, especially a Pacquiao that does look good. Now, if he goes in there, waits a year, and fights an old Pacquiao, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Who cares? Nobody would care about that because, Manny Pacquiao's past his prime, But that's furthermore reason to fight him now versus fighting someone like Jeff Horn, then another nobody that you can beat in December, then early next year. I still think I can fight, and then you're that much slower that the year after. Then you get in there with a savage like Keith Thurman. And then it would be bad because he's only doing his job by putting a whooping on you or knocking you out. versus letting you and carrying you, because you got to get those old heads out of there. You see how Hopkins went out? You see how Jones, you see how Sugar Shane Mosley goes out, how they went out? Because you had to take them out. They're fighters at the end of the day. And I think Manny Pacquiao still has that fighting spirit. But he hasn't got to those guys' level yet. Thank God. He's really proven the norm. He's proven that he is, a force to be reckoned with. But I feel I feel Bob Arum's kind of carrying him a little bit, fighting Jeff Horn. Now if he's trying to do it for his best interest, good for him, because he doesn't want to see Manny fight or Manny get in there with somebody that's a threat or that could hurt him. You know what I mean? On that aspect, I understand. But if he's still claiming he's the people's champ and, he cares about his fans because he did the poll, right? And everyone voted for Khan, so he wanted that fight. He really wanted that fight. You got to give him credit for that. But, if he's not fighting the top guys and, he's getting hit, he should just step down, And, but again, I would like, if you look at this fight, if you look at Manny Pacquiao and you look at Keith Thurman, Keith Thurman's not a tall guy. He just looks a lot taller, you know what I mean? With hair or whatever, his build. But if he fights Manny right now, I have Manny beating him. Because, he did a good job with Danny Garcia, but Danny Garcia doesn't have the layers. The only way I see Keith Thurman beating Manny Pacquiao, I don't think he can knock Manny Pacquiao out. I really don't. I don't think that. But if he did, it would be catching Manny coming in. Because he is a good counterpuncher. And it'd have to be in the middle of the ring. You'd have to catch Manny coming in on one of those angles, and he's coming in with that lunging left hook after he's stutter stepped and make you fall back in the pocket. Because you're going to be on the defensive and your head's either straight down the center, and that's and he has you. But if Keith Thurman can time that and go to the side and catch him with an uppercut or something like that coming in, that's what I see happening if it was going to be a victory for Keith Thurman. If they fought now. If they fall next year, I hope Manny's not even fighting next year. I hope this is the last fight. He can keep proving them wrong. Bernard Hopkins did. Again, Bernard did it for many, 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 many years. But not everyone's like Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins is more reserved than most people. So, you can't compare it to a guy that's been in that many wars and stuff. I'm not saying Bernard hasn't. It's just Bernard, he reserves himself really well. But even that, time caught up with him, and look what happened eventually, right? So, but back to the fight at hand, the possible fight, the fights in talks. Keith Thurman, he has those tricky angles himself. He's an awkward fighter himself, but I don't see him dealing with it. Because Manny, his speed is still there. That's problem number one. Problem number two is his power. See, he can hurt Keith Thurman too. And that would be the problem. Thurman would be able to hit him, but would he be able to hit him to hurt him? That's the question, would be if they ever fought. Like now, So, I just want to know what you guys think about it, because it's really been going along all around these boxing circles, and it's past the fantasy, because Roach does have somewhat of a leeway on what Manny does because he's his trainer, because he shows what level that he's on because he sees it day by day because he's his trainer, right? So, he does have a little leeway in, the fights and the training and conditioning that Manny's in right now. So, but again, if that fight happens, if Bob Arum and Al Heyman can come together and make that fight, it would do very well. I'm looking at, I don't know, man, 1 million buys, 1 million pay-per-view buys, definitely. So, but you guys tell me what you think. I know it's been a while since I had a video. I've been working, grinding, you know what I mean? But please subscribe, get back with me, tell me what you think. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News. You guys been counterpunched. Peace.